Hi there everyone, how you doing today? As you may have noticed, something's a bit different. I got leggies and hands. I got proper tracking. Anyways, you're not here for that, are you? Today we're reading r/entitled people, where people are very entitled. If you enjoyed today's videos, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, all that wonderful stuff, and let's get started, shall we? Local football team blocks me and others in community center car park for over 2 hours. This happened yesterday and I'm still mad. I do dog sports with my corgi, and one thing we're getting into currently is scent work. She absolutely loves it, and I found a great instructor through my man-trailing club. So yesterday I drive with my dog for nearly an hour to a community center in the deepest Welsh valleys for a 2-hour workshop. There's 4 dogs in the class, so we've got 4 small cars between us. The car park for the community center is small and holds maybe 7 cars. We're the only ones using the hall, but it's pretty obvious that we're in here. About an hour and there's a commotion in the car park, and when the instructor went out, there were suddenly loads of vans and cars in the car park blocking our cars in. We realize that there's a football match or training starting on the pitch opposite, but we're hopeful that they'll realize they need to move their cars. The workshop finishes and one of the attendees goes over to say that if anyone is parked at the community center, to move, and they all just carry on playing even knowing that we're blocked in. About 20 minutes later, we go in and ask again, and they get told they'll move at halftime. And guess what? They didn't. At 4:15 p.m., 2.5 hours after the workshop finished, they start coming back and move. Half of them were bloody spectators that could have moved their cars at any points. The selfish, bloody wankers. And we find out from the center caretaker that they're not allowed to park there while matches are on, but they do it anyway and don't give a crud. The worst thing was we all had dogs with us who had to wait in our cars. Fortunately for most of us attending Mantrail, so our dogs are used to waiting in our cars for longest periods of time, and it wasn't a hot day. Oh, and these blokes didn't even apologize to us. The arrogant knobs. Entitled recipient wants my change. Several months ago, I was at one of those nationwide bargain stores. A young woman was using her debit card and was about $4 short. I said I'd cover it, but should have been more clear that I only meant to cover the shortage and not the total bill, about $12. I did it as an act of kindness, and not because she was cute or attractive, because she was neither. The cashier charged me the total amount, and I gave her a 20. The entitled woman didn't thank me, and even had her hand out towards the cashier to get my change. I stared at the entitled woman, and she kept her hand extended, as the cashier gathered my change. Thankfully, the cashier gave me my change, and the entitled woman turned to leave. I said, "You're welcome," aloud, and she still never said a word. I've heard of much worse entitled behavior, but I've never witnessed or been the recipient of anything like this. This isn't entitled behavior. She was a scammer who knew exactly what she was doing. This has become a very common scam. If you search on any of the scam-related subreddits, you'll find many examples of this occurring all over the United States. The elderly woman in the line. So earlier today, I went into town to purchase a few grocery items. You know, your typical Sunday morning routine. So I get 2 items from a store I usually stop by at weekly and join the queue behind an elderly gentleman. In walks this lady from the entrance, and she stands up behind the queue, but just in front of me, and gave me a glance. I immediately realized she was trying to cut in front of me and use her age as though she was entitled to cut in front of me. In my mind, I was like, heck no. If you had asked, maybe, but since you didn't, no cutting in line for you today. It was my pleasure to see the disappointed look on her face as I acted as though she wasn't intending to jump in front of me. She even had the nerve to try and throw verbal shade behind my back as she cut in front of the other person behind me. I was going to engage on her comment, but I decided that she wasn't worth the energy. I had more important things to do. I would have just pointed out the back of the line and told her, "The line starts back there," and smiled. I am a disabled and use a power chair. I also currently live in an adult home until my housing opens up. Both mine and a roommate's bedroom is at the end of the hall next to a restroom. Today he complained that I come down the hall too often in the middle of the day and the sound of my wheelchair wakes him up. Mind you, I can hear his television, his music, him moving around, and him entering and leaving his own room. In addition to the TVs of 2 other residents as well, as video games and loud conversations. My solution? Not connected headphones. His solution? I can't enter or leave the restroom during the day. Edit. The man in question sleeps all day and moves around at night because he drinks and smokes weed at night so he doesn't get caught by the owners. He is perfectly mobile and states he has non-connected headphones. He simply just doesn't want to be inconvenienced. And my brain injury is such that when I need to pee, it has to be now. Not much I can do about that. If he tries to block you from using the restroom, complain immediately to whoever manages the group home and use his towel, jacket, or something he values to dry yourself off with if you do get forced to pee outside the bathroom. Hurricane causes tens of millions of damage for a company. People won't stop complaining. At most, people with functioning brains know that the hurricane that just came through has caused a lot of damage. My company supports small businesses all down the coast with IT-related issues and hosting servers. I've had hundreds of calls in the last few days from people who don't have power, who don't have a way to get through their businesses. Tell me the storm wasn't that bad, and to try and resolve these issues quicker. One person has flat out told me the news reporting 140 being washed out was a lie, and we're just using not being able to get to the buildings as an excuse to be lazy. Another person told me they understand the storm did a lot of damage and ruined a lot of lives, and they feel bad for people, but what does that have to do with me? As if the storm didn't hit them too. I remember the 90s and 2000s where storms like this would cause issues for weeks, and people would just deal with it. Now it's been less than 24 hours, and people want it to be like nothing happened. A guest demands a paid job cleaning a house she's visited. My dad, Bill, recently had a visit from an old friend, Tom, and his new girlfriend, Susan. Susan had met my dad once or twice already, but it was brief, and it was her first time in his home. They climbed the stairs from the front door to the kitchen and dining room, which open up into the living room. Dad grabs a few beers, and he and Tom head to the table. Meanwhile, Susan's giving herself an in-depth tour, wandering through the rooms, looking at everything, touching everything. As if that weren't WTF enough, in the home of someone in the first time, Susan suddenly declares, "Bill, this is a mess!" My poor dad was literally rendered speechless. For starters, it was a blatant lie. Dad is in his late 60s, but in excellent physical health and totally keeps things neat and clean. Of course, there's a little clutter here and there, but that's the typical things like a stack of mail that hasn't been gone through yet. Some snacks. Just little things you expect in any home that has people living in it. But for another, this woman was a guest in his home. Had he been a hoarder worthy of his own Netflix episode, it would have been proper manners to keep her mouth shut. But as Dad floundered, the plot thickened.
Don't worry, Bill.
Susan continued cheerfully.
I'll come in cleaning for you. I've been looking for a new house cleaning customer, so I have plenty of time to come work here. My rates are just
insert number
of dollars. You're so lucky I came by to help you out. I'll start tomorrow.
Apparently my father is a much more restrained person than I am. I don't believe I could have handled it as calmly as he did under the circumstances. He just gave her a firm, no thank you, I don't need help at this time. Of course, Susan didn't just accept that, he had to tell her several times before she finally backed down. And what was Tom doing throughout all this? Sitting silently, beer in hand, with a chill expression on his face. That's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and hit that notification bell, or I'm gonna have to come steal your kneecaps, just like I slapped mine. Except yours will vanish! Guaranteed! Now I will see you all next time. Hasta la pasta.